Genesis 27, 37 to 40. So I put that first, I put chapter 28 first before reading this so we can get a picture. Isaac blessed Jacob and said, go to your uncle's house, your uncle's home, and get for thee a wife. But the point is, they say, when Esau saw that Isaac blessed Jacob. But before coming to this passage, we know from the culture the blessing was meant for the older brother. The father would set the blessing for the older brother. That was the culture. That was the practice. And I said sometimes what you consider a blessing may not be a blessing. And at times also the blessing may become a burden because it was not intended for you, even though men thought they're supposed to have it. So here said, Isaac said to Esau, I have made Jacob your master and have declared that all his brothers will be his servants. So the reason why Isaac continued to bless Jacob, because in God's purpose, God has chosen him for the specific reason. Even though the blessing here, him only, was intended for Esau. So Esau pleaded. Listen, Isaac said to Esau, I have made Jacob your master and have declared that all his brothers will be his servants. Esau pleaded, but do you have only one blessing? That Esau has been a father, so only one blessing you get? Oh, my father, bless me too. Then Esau broke down and wept. He asked his father. Isaac said to him, you will live away from the richness of the earth and away from the dew of heaven above. You will live by your sword and you will serve your brother. But when you decide to break free, you will shake his yoke from your neck. I want to get that passage clear. That meant when Isaac, when you read further, previously, Isaac had blessed Jacob, emptied the blessing. So blessing is not physical, blessing is spiritual. What we see sometimes are just the physical result of the blessing you've been carrying along. That's why we sing that song, I am the seed the Lord hath blessed. So Esau came from the field, and his father said to him, I finished blessing your brother. He will be your master, and his brothers will be his servant. Then Esau begged him, he said, Papa, only one blessing you get, bless me too. And begin to cry. Look at the blessing Isaac put on him. You will live away from the richness of the earth and away from the dew of heaven above. You will live by your sword, that blessing, and you will serve your brother because he's forcing the man to bless him. You getting the picture? Nothing there again. But when you decide to break free, you will shake his yoke from off your neck. Some blessing, when it's not in God's will, it becomes a yoke and a burden. God blesses based on purpose. So Esau is forcing blessing from his father. You don't have blessing. He said, I finished blessing him. The only thing I can do that your sword you will live by. And you will serve your brother. I call that cursed blessing. But when you decide you get strong, you can free him from your neck. But you will go further, you see the day Esau gets strong and want to free himself from Jacob in Genesis 32, when he's coming with 400 men to meet Jacob. But what God does, in chapter 32, he crossed Ephraim and meets Jacob and changed his name to Israel. So when Esau meets Jacob and wants to kill him, he can't kill Jacob because he's seeing the person he sees that looks like Jacob, but he sees Israel. Even though he's looking for Jacob, but the person he sees doesn't resemble the person he's looking for in the spiritual realm, because he's been declared blessed in the spirit. But see here, see something. I know people are kind of lost, but before we conclude the message, I want to get you thinking, you will understand. Isaac was pleased to release blessing on Jacob that was intended for Esau. This blessing was intended for Esau, But Isaac is pleased to release it upon Jacob without problem. But when they keep the blessing, Esau knowingly, he's not pleased to do it. They're blessing for me. But why are forcing and twisting your hands to get it out of you? My point is that as far as God has designed what is blessing, if God has set it out for you, beloved, you don't need to twist and turn and manipulate. Hello? God, and this is what I said regarding that. That should be the prayer of every one of us. Isaac was pleased to release blessing on Jacob that is intended for Esau. When they came to blessing Esau knowingly, he is not pleased. God, please, I don't want to hear a word until you are pleased to bless me. That's the prayer I want you to pray. Most time we are asking God, God, please bless me. God, please bless my business. Please bless my family. Please bless my children. Is God pleased to bless you? Hello. So I said, God, if you are not pleased, I don't want to hear a word for blessing until you are pleased to bless me. That should be the heart and desire of every child of God. Because you don't want to force anything out of the hands of God when it is in your will for me. What am I saying? Sometimes I put that personally. I like to make the message personally. Because I don't want to force anything out of the hands of God when it's not in his will for me. Blessing was in God's will for Jacob and not Esau. Hello. Blessing was in God's will for Abraham. That's why when his father blessed him, he said the blessings that God put on Abraham will be on you. You got to find out what is God's will for you and line up with that will. Hello. The reason why sometimes believers envy and jealous and undermine people, believer, there's no problem with God blessing you and blessing your brother, blessing your husband, blessing your wife, and blessing your children, blessing your neighbor. When you stick in his will, he will bless you. But the reason why sometimes when God blesses the other person, envy and undermining and jealousy set in, because it's that we also, beloved, when you are in purpose and God's will, you don't need to stress yourself or stretch up and down or do anything. He will definitely when it comes to blessing. Hello. So the reason why Esau is forcing it out of his father's hands, because he's not in God's will. Hello. Blessing is good, and that's why everybody wants to be blessed. But sometimes what you call your blessing can be your burden and bondage. When God blessed Saul to be king of Israel, he wasn't pleased. Oh my God, I wonder if people are hearing me. God called Saul to bless him as king of Israel, but God not pleased. Then where are we? What did I say? God, I don't want any blessing that you are not pleased about. Should that be your prayer? How you will call someone to a blessing, and that's why sometimes we do our leaders. So now all the leaders God chooses, even over the nation. You think that God pleased with them? And that's what we always say, and the God choose leader for discipline, for this year. When God chose Nebuchadnezzar, it was to punish Israel. And afterward, God said, I will destroy you. Hello. So, since God is not pleased to bless Saul, any attempt by Saul to walk out of order, the blessing is reversed. It was man who had chosen Saul and not God. Why God is not pleased to bless Saul? Because that man chose Saul. God had been leading them through judges and prophets. And then they came to Samuel. They said, Samuel, you know what? We want leader to be like other nations. We want a king who will go before us. And Samuel is grieved. And then he tells God, God said, Lord, they have not rejected you. They have rejected me. So you know what? Choose Saul. But the thing Saul will do to them, it will not be easy. So God is blessing Saul, but he's not pleased because Saul is not God's will for Israel. When God brought them out of Egypt, God has said to them through Moses, a time will come that the nation will begin to have a king. It's not that God didn't want them to have a king, but they wanted to rush ahead of God's timing. So when you rush ahead of God's timing, sometimes what you call blessings become a burden. And then because you begin to doubt God, that God cannot do it by himself. Something happened in 2 Samuel chapter 7. That's why I love this man, David. David prayed that it will please God to bless him. This is why David goes to God to pray. You know what he tells God? God, I want you to be pleased to bless me. If you want to bless me, I don't want blessing to impress people. I want blessing that you are pleased about. But I think we are in a day, especially for believers, we want blessing to impress people. God gave me house too because my brother get house. God, let me get degree too so they can know I get degree. God gave me children because my brother get children. God gave me husband because my sister too get married. God gave me wife because my friend ain't getting married and I'm not getting married. Beloved, that's a cursed blessing. It's like forcing something out of your father's hand, even though he knows you need it, but when it's not the time for you, you're still forcing it. So sometimes he let you to have it. He said, let them go and experience by themselves. And instead of that thing becoming a blessing like the prodigal son, he ended up eating in pig pen. So David, that's why I love David. God makes David king. David said, God, I'm not excited to get be king of Israel. All these things, they don't move me. People serving me, people honoring me, people clapping their hands. Saul had killed 1,000, David had 10,000, making me the head of all your people. They're not impressing me, God. What I want to be impressed with is please be pleased to bless me. I don't want to end up like Saul. I don't want to have blessings that you are not pleased about. And every day you're telling the prophet, I get jammed with that one day. I get jammed with that one. Can you imagine? That's why God is telling Samuel with Saul. He said, I get jammed with him. Amen. So when he sinned, he will be punished, but the Lord will establish his kingdom forever. But see, God, please don't bless me until you are pleased. I wanted to say please. I don't want to hear a word about blessing me until you are pleased to do so. I don't want a blessing because I saw my neighbors and friends being blessed. Such a blessing could only become a trap to my destruction. Bless me, Lord, because you have a purpose in mind for me to fulfill. The mandate of a blessing. The reason why when God blesses, because every blessing carries a mandate. Hello. There's a mandate for every blessing upon honor which a mandate for every blessing you operate on. Most time we want the blessing, but we forget and ignore the mandate. When God blessed Abraham, the mandate was for him to be a blessing. I'm blessing you so that you can be a blessing. Every blessing